We are the future. As we look into the unsure future, we find one thing is certain. We must face our burning. Contestant number C. We are the future. As we look into the unsure future, we find one thing is certain. We must face our challenges as previous generations have done before us. Civil rights injustices, tyranny and oppression, along with disease and world poverty, are just a few of the battles that have faced past achievers. Each generation in our history has had a duty. Whether it be considered a burden or relief, these conditions are an inescapable reality. What appears at first to be simple tasks, in truth, can only be attained by hard work or the consumption of knowledge. Ah! Well, it's annoying. We are the future. As we look into the unsure future, we find one thing is certain. We must face our challenges as previous generations have done before us. Civil rights injustices, tyranny and oppression, along with disease and world poverty, are just a few of the battles that face past achievers. Each generation in our history has had a duty. Whether it be considered a burden or a relief, these conditions are an inescapable reality. What appears at first to be simple tasks, in truth, can only be attained by hard work towards the consumption of knowledge. As we look into the unsure future, after the details that I have stated, and our obvious duties, assures me with confidence when I say, we are the future. Let's take a step back in time to 1963, when the heat of the civil rights movement was in full effect. One man, whose name rings like a familiar bell in our ears, accepted the liability and the obligations of his generation. A man who was the future of this so familiar past, accepted the fate of the current position. This man who, after being spat upon, violated, and publicly humiliated, remained an optimist, not turning his back on what he felt was right. Martin Luther King Jr. A man of respect, integrity, and honesty shocked not only America, but what seemed like the world in the speech in which he expressed so many dreams. Let's take another step back in time, 21 years to 1942. Nazi Germany was fresh on its way to taking out an entire religious belief along with its followers. Young adults across the globe were drafted into military service and sent to fight against tyranny and oppression brought on by Adolf Hitler's death kings. For that generation, their responsibilities involved self-sacrifice, courage in the face of fear, and to halt the abolishment of all Jews. Just as Martin Luther King Jr., and along with the many who fought in World War II, we too, this generation, has numerous expectations to accomplish. We now live in a time where violence, disease, and world poverty drowned out every thought. Recently, another school shooting has occurred. It's not only the adults' responsibility to encourage peace, it is also this generation's. We must, as students and teenagers, persuade our friends and our acquaintances in promoting alternative ways of dealing with anger. AIDS, cancer, and other diseases have plagued these recent years, which this generation is expected to cure. We must fight, as the future, to learn more about these viruses and ailments which hospitalize so many of us every year. To achieve the greatness expected from us, we must be prepared for the task laid before us. Knowledge is the most important aspect of true greatness. Ignorance leads to failure and shame. Can you give me one good reason why knowledge is not the most important aspect of true greatness? To attain knowledge is to achieve our goals and responsibilities, just like Martin Luther King once did, therefore becoming important, great goal achievers. The only way to reach greatness and follow in the footsteps of our ancestors and fulfilling their obligations, commitments, and duties is to set high goals and work towards them through the consumption and hard work of knowledge. I now look into the future where a moment of truth stands like a beacon of hope. And it is this generation, my generation, the people of the future, who have an obligation to fulfill to all the past achievers that have lived, worked hard to be successful, and died before me. And I will not be satisfied until every person in my generation is successful. I will not be satisfied and everyone in my generation can stand together as brothers and sisters. I will not be satisfied until my generation has created world peace, abolished poverty, and cured diseases. I will not be satisfied until every person in my generation is productive. No, I will not be satisfied until this. But one day, when I am very old, sitting upon my porch watching the birds, I will look at what the world has become, and I will be satisfied. We are the future. I'm not getting it under.